If, like me, you frequent the Overwatch subreddit, you will have no doubt seen hundreds and hundreds of posts complaining about different areas of the game. From balance to monetization, with some very valid points and suggested fixes for what people would like to see. You will most likely have also seen posts complaining that a one-coin Bastion skin for the Christmas holidays is still somehow a cash grab by Blizzard and is actually a bad thing to bait people into spending currency so they are one coin short at a later date. The player base is divided over the game, and many people are losing the motivation to play. So I wanted to take a look at what the game looks like now and some potential future fixes which would help players feel more rewarded for playing and also make the moment-to-moment gameplay feel better. I know it is a very popular thing to hate the game at the minute as much as possible, however I didn't want to just do that. I will also draw attention to the aspects of the game that I think have been improved or unnecessary features which have been trimmed out of the sequel. Firstly, monetization. This is perhaps the topic that has seen the largest amount of complaints across the community, and for those that maybe didn't play Overwatch 1, I will explain the differences between the two games now. In Overwatch 1, you would be given a loot box for every player level you achieved on your account, which was roughly every few hours of gameplay. Loot boxes would contain 4 items, with one guaranteed rare or higher quality. This included most items in the game, emotes, skins, victory poses and so on. And if you ever opened a duplicate item, then you would instead be given a corresponding amount of credits for the item that you would have received, up to 500 credits for a legendary item. This system worked well for players who did not want to spend money on the game to unlock cosmetics, as you would eventually be rewarded with skins and emotes you may want just for playing. And if you were unlucky and didn't get stuff you did want, thanks to the duplicate protection, you would build up a steady supply of credits to unlock things you actually did want eventually. Now let's look at the Overwatch 2 monetization system. Firstly, loot boxes have been completely removed from the game, and any in a player's inventory were automatically opened at launch. What replaced this system is the Battle Pass, which works in a similar way to loot boxes, except you can see what you're going to earn by unlocking different Battle Pass tiers, and the better rewards are locked behind a paywall for each season. Considering Overwatch 2 is technically a free-to-play game, unlike the original, why does the Battle Pass system get so much hate? Firstly, the cost. The premium Battle Pass costs around $10 or £8.50 here in the UK, which is not much less than I bought the original Overwatch game for. The release of new heroes now being gated behind the Battle Pass, like Kiriko and Ramatra, also means that for players that do not want to pay, they will unlock these new heroes much later than other players, leading to an actual in-game advantage instead of a Battle Pass just being about cosmetics. All premium currency has also been removed from the Battle Pass, which means the only way to unlock credits is now with the weekly challenges at a rate of 60 per week, and with one legendary skin costing around 1,900 credits, it might take you about 6 months to even earn a single skin you actually want to own. Now, the main gripe people have with the Battle Pass is that it just does not offer good enough rewards without paying for it, with only 2 skins being included in the free Battle Pass for Season 2, and the rest of the rewards being mainly filler that no one actually cares about. And finally, even if you do buy the Battle Pass, then it is only for this season. Unlike other Battle Pass games like Fortnite, which allow you to earn access to following season's premium passes by fully completing the one you bought previously, Overwatch 2 doesn't have this system. All in all, the way that Overwatch 2 has been monetized is extremely strict in comparison to Overwatch 1, and does not reward players for simply playing the game. I know Blizzard have to make money on the game, however they were surely already doing this with the original and the loot box system, which players could buy with real world money or earn them slower if they didn't want to spend the money. While new game modes and characters have been introduced to the game for Overwatch 2, some things were removed, and there does not seem to be a great reason as to why. Firstly, the on-fire visual feedback when you're on a kill streak was removed, but the voice lines were still kept in-game. This was a nice feedback feature for players, and I'm not sure why this was actually taken out. Medals were also removed from Overwatch 1, which showed who had dealt the most damage or done the most healing on your team, and in its place a scoreboard had been added which shows all players' numbers across both teams. This is actually a change that I much prefer, as it lets you see your own stats and that of your team and know who's doing well and which DPS to blame when you lose. However, the scoreboard is not perfect and misses some information like damage boosted, which is important to know. If your Mercy has only done 5,000 healing but has damage boosted 8,000, then this would be useful to be able to see. Overwatch 2 was supposed to include a PvE mode at launch, which has still not been released. There are plans for this to be launched in 2023, however this remains to be seen. And it should be noted that this was the main point of making a second game of Overwatch in the first place. 4 new characters and a handful of new maps would not justify a sequel, so the fact that the PvE mode is still not in-game is very disappointing to say the least. The 2 control point game mode, and by extension maps like Anubis and Hanamura, have also been removed, and I'm very sad to see these go, as they were my favourite maps, although the move to 5v5 and the faster game format would make 2CP very hard to implement as it existed in Overwatch 1. If you think attacking in the final 10 metres of push is difficult, then you clearly don't remember trying to take the second point of Anubis. Maps are now on a rotation, and certain maps are yet to make a comeback, like Numbani and Volskaya Industries. While the idea of a map rotation seems like a good one to keep variety up, the fact that the pools are so small mean that you very quickly encounter the same map multiple times in a session, and I think reintroducing all maps into one pool would greatly help the game from stagnating with repetition. The biggest single change made from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 is the move from 6v6 to 5v5. Now the game is much faster paced than the original, and each player's impact on the outcome of a game feels much greater with less players per match. I want to say off the bat that the core gameplay of Overwatch 2, to me, feels much better than Overwatch 1. I've already played more Overwatch 2 than I ever did the original, as I couldn't really get into the slow-paced, more decision-based gameplay. Although that is not to say that the new format is perfect. Characters being tweaked to accommodate the new format was necessary, however it has resulted in some irritations for the player base. With the game having way less crowd control abilities to keep flankers like Genji and Sombra in check, some heroes became unfun to play against with seemingly little counterplay. Add to this one-shot characters like Widow and Hanzo being able to effectively remove 1/5 of your entire team by landing a lucky headshot, and this can quickly frustrate newer players and dissuade them from wanting to keep playing. To add to this annoyance, metas are lasting for far too long in each season, with Season 2 seeing one of the least fun in my memory. Every game is dominated by a hog who will eventually one-shot you with a hook combo, and if you don't die to that, then you will die to the damage boosted Sojourn one-tapping you. This has been the case for around 6 weeks since the nerfs to Zarya, and with a recent patch leaving hog and damage boosting untouched, it is set to continue until probably the end of the season. These extremely long waits for any sort of balancing rapidly drains the fun of playing when there are clearly overpowered heroes who evade nerfs and the weakest heroes remaining untouched for months at a time. Consider Wrecking Ball compared to Mercy. Ball has been the lowest win rate hero for a very long time and barely sees play. He has not had any buffs for a long time, but Mercy got a random buff that doesn't actually make any difference to her core gameplay, and she was in a fine spot anyway. To make matters worse, some characters were removed from play altogether for multiple weeks in a row due to game-breaking bugs, and it seemed like Blizzard were really taking their time on balance patches, with the first being delayed repeatedly. Mei and Bastion, who had just been buffed, were both out of action for way longer than is reasonable, especially for a game in its immediate post-launch window. Push game mode was also added, and was absolutely hated by 99% of the player base to begin with, myself included. You can take a quick look on YouTube and find multiple videos mathematically breaking down how it is a fundamentally unfair game mode, and whoever wins the first fight in push will win the game regardless of what happens next. However, now that the dust has settled, I'm actually finding myself enjoying push more and more, and I've played many games on Colosseo with huge comebacks. I think the biggest issue with the one-sided stomps is not anything to do with push, and is more to do with, in my view, the most broken aspect of Overwatch 2. A matchmaking system in any multiplayer game is there to try and ensure a balanced outcome and quality of matches based on players' skill. This can be determined usually through a player's statistics in some way, with win rate or rank typically being used as a basis for matching you with teammates of a similar skill or rank to you, and opponents being a similar match to you as well to ensure an even and fun game. Overwatch 2 has now made players' career profiles private by default. which may be the single worst idea for any competitive esports title or sport in general. I'll try and explain exactly why using chess as an analogy. Imagine you sign up to chess.com, and when you play a game against another player, you can't see what their ELO rating is, and they can't see yours. The first 5 games that you play, you get absolutely destroyed because, unknown to you, your opponents have all been chess grandmasters. The 5 games after that, you win in decisive fashion in 10 moves or less because your opponents have all been children. This is not a good system to encourage a player to keep playing, and the games will never be fun. Every loss will feel demotivating, and every win will feel something much, much worse: boring. Bringing this back to Overwatch, I will use some examples of my competitive games from the last week where this has happened. As a Silver 2 tank player, I played 3 matches in a row where one of my DPS players were either Bronze 1 or Bronze 2, and an enemy DPS player was Plat 4 or Plat 5. And as expected, there is absolutely no way for my DPS player to compete in that game. They are simply outclassed and should not have been put into the game in the first place. At most, I can only ever see 1 or 2 players' ranks, with everyone else's profiles being private, but I have seen enough posts on Reddit about this to know that top 500 players are ending up in lobbies with diamond players and below, and this is just unacceptable. If you are going to play a competitive team-based game, you deserve to see the skill and capabilities of your team and who you're playing against. The reason for this change to me seems quite clear. Given that many returning players have actually stopped playing altogether and there is a constant influx of new players with the game now being free to play, the more important thing in Blizzard's eyes is queue times. And the way to easily shorten the DPS timer from 5 or 6 minutes at any point to under 2 minutes constantly is to completely gut the matchmaking system and let anybody play against anybody of any skill. At the same time, prevent players from even being able to see who they are matched with and against, so they don't realise they're going to lose some games before they've even started. Overwatch is at a crucial point in its life cycle. With the release of PvE slated for this year, and it having been nearly 6 months as a live service game, if the player base aren't happy, then the game will not have much of a future. If the player base dwindles even slightly, then queue times will go up even with the least restrictive matchmaking. The newer players will not be incentivized to play, as they will not bother waiting 6 minutes to play DPS or tank. The monetization system needs to be addressed and reworked in some way, as it is currently too unrewarding for casual players, and the pricing of skins is an absolute travesty. This is a shame, because while the skins may be double the price that they should be, I do believe that some of the skins released in Overwatch 2 have been of the best quality we've ever seen. The introduction of mythic skins is fantastic, and I think the Olympus set of skins is the best set across the game, with no single skin being boring or unimaginative. Blizzard need to be updating the game more frequently and not leaving entire seasons with very little or no balance changes to heroes that are either clearly overpowered or completely useless. I think that the actual state of the game will be much healthier in 2 or 3 seasons, but it currently has a long way to go. Finally, I want to end this video by saying I do genuinely still enjoy playing Overwatch 2. If I didn't, I would find something else to play or go back to League. The core gameplay feels great and has a polish which has been maintained from the first game, but the issues in this video will need to be addressed to ensure its long-term success. These have been my thoughts on the current state of Overwatch 2. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below, or think I may have missed something out of the discussion. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.